Hello, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a very fascinating show today. You know, so many people reach out to me at the DotCom Magazine show and they say, hey, we want to know what products are really scaling. We want to know what products are really knocking the cover off the ball. We want you to keep us abreast of what's happening in so many different markets. And I came across one of the most unique products you're ever going to see. The name of the company is the Pickle Juice Company. And it really doesn't have anything to do with pickle juice, but when you find out what they do, you're going to want to be, you're going to want to buy the product, first of all, but you're going to want to learn about the entrepreneurial journey of Mr. Filip Keuppens. And he is the partner and vice president of the Pickle Juice Company. I know you're on pins and needles wanting to know what it is. I mean, it's not pickle juice, but it's something that's so important. And it's a product that's specifically proven to stop muscle cramps. And it resonates for me because I get those in the middle of the night, and so many athletes are using this product. They've got so many professional athletes and amateur athletes using it. It's just remarkable. But without further ado, Filip, thank you so much for coming on the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was an awesome introduction. I hope I live up to it.
I think you will. I know about your background and experience. You're an amazing entrepreneur. You've brought so many different products to market, but this product, the Pickle Juice Company product for muscle cramps, is really the only product out there that helps. And I know it does because there's so many athletes that are just saying, hey, this thing has changed my entire life. It's changed my career. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet and tell us about the Pickle Juice Company to start with.
Yeah, so it really is a really cool and exciting product. It's in all of our years in CPG, we rarely find something that kind of changes the landscape, right? And I tell people all the time that this isn't just a product; it's a new category. It's akin to, and it's a bold statement, I get it, but it's kind of akin to what Red Bull was in 1999, saying, "Look, this is." Somebody comes to the market and says, here's a thing, here's a new SKU in a size that isn't configured for traditional retail, that is a taste profile unlike anything you're accustomed to, and it does a completely different thing, or when bottled water was introduced and everybody's like, why would I pay for something that's free? So I'm really excited that we are part of bringing functional beverage to the next level. We're taking functional food and beverage to this hyper acute space that is neurologically based rather than physiologically based. And we're, nutrition as a functional sort of conversation is pretty new, right? When I was an athlete or attempting to be an athlete years ago, the closest thing we had to nutrition from a functional perspective was eat some carbs on Friday before the game, and then protein load on Saturday before kickoff. That was about it. But now we're really learning more and more about all of this. And if you go back to 2010, when Dr. Kevin Miller and his group at discovered that muscle cramps are really a neurological phenomenon rather than a physiological phenomenon, and that was sort of the starting point, right? And that's when we understood why some of these old wives' tales about and folk remedies about why pickle brine helped alleviate cramps. We always assumed it was the electrolytes because there's such a high sodium content in pickle brine. But then we realized it was sort of the way that the vinegar type of acetic acid was engaging with our nerve receptors. And we kind of ran with that. Spent a lot of time wearing lab coats, testing different things, did some sort of rudimentary testing, and eventually developed this product that was designed specifically to stop the neurotransmitters that cause muscle cramping. Just so happened that the culmination of those ingredients made it taste like pickle brine. So if we're going to prepare you to consume something that tastes like that, we better give you a heads up. We call it Pickle Juice, which is, as you mentioned, a trade name. It's got nothing to do with pickles. It's not pickle brine. It's not the stuff in the jar. It's just a trade name. And because of the attention we've gotten over the years, especially since 2015, it's kind of become synonymous, and the perception is, we suffer the same fate that Band-Aid, Xerox, Kleenex, Thermos, etc. suffer. And frankly, that's company I don't mind keeping. Hopefully we can have the growth and success those organizations have had.
Philip, I love it so much. I watch a lot of television due to, .com magazine, staying abreast of what's happening. I love to watch other interviews. I love to watch documentaries. I love to watch sports. Of course, everybody knows that watch the show. Not only was an athlete, but I love to stay up with what's happening. And you can't turn on an athletic, event, whether it's a soccer match, a football match, a triathlon, anything, without people, kind of athletes, going down with muscle cramps. And something that's so interesting is, you have unsponsored elite athletes on television chugging the pickle juice. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, that must be great, and a great feeling, being one of the, founders of this wonderful company, or one of the partners of this company, to see this on live TV. What does that make you feel like?
Honestly, it's kind of surreal. Because I've been in CPG for over 20 years. I've been in sports and have dealt with sponsors and exclusivity stuff. And just last week on Monday Night Football, Fletcher Cox was drinking our product right there on the field in its branded container. I mean, that's unheard of. It just doesn't happen. And this happens for this product probably on a monthly basis. And it's not just in the United States, it's everywhere. It's in Australia, India, South Africa, Europe, and it's cricket, rugby, cycling. It's just all over the place. And I think it's astounding that we've been fortunate enough to be so well received at the highest levels. And it's not just athletes that are getting it. It's not just the pro athletes. That's just where we see it. That's the really cool, exciting stuff to talk about. But I mean, muscle cramps affect over 50% of the US population. So, our demographic is really everybody, or half of everybody. And it's not, it's people who get nighttime leg cramps. It's high level athletes. It's weekend warriors, if you will. And heck, it's mom who just wants a healthy alternative to sugary sports drinks for junior that's going to T-ball, who has this aspirational vision of consuming what the pros do. So we've been really, really fortunate to have been able to build such great brand awareness that now we just have to get the supply side to catch up with the demand side, and we'll be all right.
I love it, Philip. How does it work? I mean, I sometimes at night when I'm sleeping get a muscle cramp in my leg. Do I take it before I go to sleep? Do I take it when the muscle cramp is happening? How are the world-class athletes using it? And then how do the regular people like me use it to make sure that, it solves my problem?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it is such a different approach to using to treating the situation, because it's not meant to be taken as a supplement, as a prophylactic kind of thing. It's meant to deal with the situation kind of an acute level. Earlier, I mentioned that muscle cramps are a neurological thing. So when you're getting a muscle cramp, really what it is, kind of simplifying, is a hyperengagement of a muscle. And the cramp is actually a neurological response to any one of about 12 different physiological triggers. That's why when you talk to somebody about cramps, you talk to 10 people, get 12 answers. And because they're typically addressing the physiological trigger, right? And they'll tell you to eat a banana, stretch, hydrate, take potassium, whatever. The reality is those physical triggers are stimulating a neurological response, which then in turn causes a cramp, because your brain is saying, hey, there's something wrong with that muscle or group of muscles. Let's try to affect it like a massage, right? So that's why when you get an exercise-induced cramp, it's usually preceded by twinging. It's coming. The twinging is kind of like your body trying to correct whatever's going on there. Eventually, the release signal of the muscle can't keep up with the engaged signal. It hyperengages the muscle. When our product is consumed, it's processed by the same neural receptors that send that message. We overwhelm that signal with information and essentially reset it, and then flood that trouble area with electrolytes to then, after we've addressed the cause, we then attack the symptoms. So that's why it's such a unique approach. That's why this is the only product on the market that works. It's also why pickled brine and the stuff in the jar and similar sort of copycat products won't work. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, we've seen companies raise millions and millions of dollars trying to replicate it and haven't found success. Frankly, I told one of them jokingly, "Hey, you could have bought us for half."
Yeah, I like it. Philip, it's so interesting because when you think about it, there's an old saying, the proof is in the pudding. And world-class athletes get paid huge amounts of money to be able to compete. And one thing that happens oftentimes to them are the cramping or are the cramps. And their money is on the line. So it just is a testament to what you're doing at the company that they turn to your product above and beyond all products out there because their money's on the line. So of course they're going to turn to something that works. And like you said, I mean, it's remarkable. You watch live TV and there is the pickle juice can or bottle right there in the hand of some world-class athlete. You didn't pay them for it, but they know that to get back on the field so they can get paid, they need to use what works. So it's absolutely amazing. Now, Philip, you have a background in sports. I mean, I know you love rugby. I know you do coaching. I know you've done directing of rugby clubs. I want to turn the conversation a little bit toward entrepreneurship from your coaching perspective, because you're known as a great coach, a great director. You love rugby. I don't know how your face looks so good after playing rugby for so many years. It's not like mine that's all disjointed from playing football. But what did you take from coaching rugby? What can you take from coaching and bring into the business? What can you take that you learned from coaching and bring into being an entrepreneur?
At the end of the day, it's about getting the W and embracing the process. So I think so many people are focused on the end result, right? They're so obsessed with achieving their ultimate goal that they take shortcuts during the process. I think what we embrace and what I've embraced in the past is to create a culture that embraces that process, that crosses the T's, dots the I's, and we look at things from very much a servant leadership approach, where we are working in a collaborative environment to create success and create habits for success, bring people in that believe in that as well. And we put our victory as sort of a natural consequence of the process rather than focusing on the end result. And I think that's really the biggest carryover. It's creating a success collaborative culture that is more process oriented than it is end result oriented, and accepting the end result as a consequence of the process.
I love it. It's a results oriented sort of a process, and winning and corporate culture and business starts at the top. And the people at the top have to understand that, whether you're coaching sports or you're the, partner or vice president of a successful company or a founder or CEO, you need to set that corporate culture at the top. So that leads me to think about your team over at the Pickle Juice Company. I would imagine that people that come into work and they're starting to produce, the product, and they're sending it out around the world and they're seeing it on TV. World-class athletes are using it. I would imagine that, your pickle juice has been responsible for people winning because they get back on the field, they get back on the field of play, and they can get going and they're part of the team, or whether it's an individual sport as well, they're winning with pickle juice, solving their problem of muscle cramps. I would imagine the people on your team, Philip, really have a remarkable sort of start of their day because they know that they're responsible for other people's problems being set aside with their muscle cramps, and they're helping world-class athletes and young amateurs and everybody else in between solving this very, very painful problem. So what's it like for your team to wake up every morning knowing you're doing that?
I'm not going to lie. It's pretty cool when, you open the mail and there's, checks from your favorite NFL team or your favorite baseball team or whatever. That's kind of neat. And we always make a crack about it. And usually, it's one of those things where we'll tell somebody like, hey, your favorite team's rival just sent us a check for more product. So we kind of joke around it. But what's really amazing is we get calls and emails so regularly from people thanking us for contributing to what they're doing. And it's really exciting because I think it was the former president or CEO Intuit who once said that companies are no longer what they tell people they are. Companies are what people tell other people that they are. And it's really exciting to be able to walk the talk and have people come back to us. And that's why we don't do any paid marketing at all. Everything's grassroots, editorial. It's letting our sort of values, our mission, our product, our culture speak for itself. And it's really, really cool and refreshing to be able to be part of that. And I think that's kind of the direction, whether companies like it or not, that the future is going. And I think we need to be comfortable with releasing our narrative to the public and stop trying to control the message. And instead of trying to control the message, control the ingredients that formulate that message, because people are going to figure out the truth anyway. The consumer is way too educated, has way too much access to information for organizations to go out there and do anything other than be true to themselves and be honest about what it is that they're doing, producing, what they stand for, and how they're going to market. So it's really fun to be able to be part of something like that, where you can go to sleep at night knowing that you're genuinely trying to help people. You're generally trying to create products that help people. And even within, we're trying to help develop people's careers and futures and create those very positive environments. When obviously, I mean, you know this, when you're in a hyper growth environment, it's chaotic, it's stressful, it's hectic. Everybody's working a lot more hours for a lot less money than they're probably worth, because that's just where you are. I mean, you're moving so fast. And now with global supply chain issues, challenges finding people to work, it puts even more strain on our infrastructure. But everybody's genuinely excited to be here and willing to pitch in and do more and work events on weekends, and not because they have to, but because they genuinely believe it. And I'm really, really lucky, fortunate, and honored to be able to be part of this team.
I love it, Philip. It makes all the sense in the world. Baseball fans know tonight there's a big game. The Yankees play the Red Sox. One game, sort of a playoff event tonight. I'm hoping one of those teams or both the teams have the pickle juice ready to go, because, when you think about it with these elite athletes, I mean, somebody goes out with a muscle cramp and they're out for an inning, or a pitcher or something like that gets that. If they don't have pickle juice on the sideline, that could be the difference between an entire team winning or losing. So it really is important. Now, Philip, I wanted to talk to you about your entrepreneurial journey just a little bit. You've worked at so many amazing companies. You're a leader in the field. You're doing such a dynamic job with the entire team at Pickle Juice. But we have entrepreneurs watching the show that maybe they're in a startup mode. Maybe they're hitting a roadblock. Maybe they're hitting a wall. Maybe they're having a tough time and they don't know where to turn. Maybe they freeze in the frame as a young entrepreneur. They don't know what to do. Now, I know you've been through a lot of these types of situations where you keep on pushing through and come out the other end feeling and doing an amazing job for whatever company you're working for at the time. Maybe you can give some advice to the younger entrepreneurs about what it takes to get through those tough times as an entrepreneur and come out, doing much better than before.
Yeah, be willing to fail. Right. And that's pretty much it. It's part of the process. If you look at some of the greatest leaders in history, Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, both considered massive, massive failures before they became the people that we know them of today. I mean, if you look at Abraham Lincoln's professional career before he became president, it wasn't that impressive. He lost more elections than he won. He had more failed businesses than he didn't. Winston Churchill, a very similar story until he carried the UK through the Second World War. And I think the willingness to fail, and it's also important to be able to fail and know whether you can or you can't. If you can't financially afford it, you can't emotionally or mentally afford it, or you can't socially afford it, don't try. Because if you're faking it, it's not going to work, because you have to, in order to succeed, you have to be in a place where you're willing to put all the cards on the table and go all in, if you will, to use a poker analogy, and know that sometimes it's going to work out and sometimes it's not. But having the courage to do the thing is critical, and know that failure is part of that process. The other thing I would say is be true to yourself about what it is you're bringing to market, because, like I said earlier, we live in a very transparent society, and if you're not creating some value add, some point of differentiation, something that solves a problem that the market needs, find a new market or find a new thing, whether it's a product, a service, or whatever, because it could just be that you're so focused on that result and trying to achieve the thing at the end that you're not willing to explore those different pathways along the way, which is kind of counter to what you hear a lot of times, right? Everybody's saying maintain your linear focus, stay that path. But I would argue that the process is more important than the focus on that objective, right? So stay focused as an individual, stay focused on your collective objective to work in an entrepreneurial way, but embrace the process and accept failure.
I love it. This whole idea of focus really resonates for me, Philip. And for the entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind what Philip just said. It's really almost a mini MBA event, what he just gave you right there. Really focus in on what he said. And speaking of focus, and I know you've only sliced out a certain amount of time for me today, but one of the quotes that you're famous for is sleep, know your goals, and eliminate the noise. And I love that. And, you learned that early on, that, when you started to understand what it took to be a powerhouse in your field, you always want to be well rested and making that a priority in your life. Let's talk about that a little bit. Where did all that come from? That sleep, know your goals, and eliminate the noise.
It's more about controlling the things you can control, right? So failure is going to happen. Things that you can't anticipate are going to happen. But we live in this society that used to reward sleep deprivation and input rather than output. I'm talking about, people being proud of sitting at their desk for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, if that isn't resulting, yielding positive results, what's the point? You've just wasted 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I think it's more important to be alert, to be clear-minded, to be able to make the time that you're putting into whatever you're putting valuable, so that you can be more output-centric than input-centric, and sleeping well, finding a routine outside of work. You hear these stories about why Mark Zuckerberg wears the same type of hoodie every single day, because it's one less decision he has to make. I essentially have one uniform that I wear every single day. I wear kind of khaki pants, a golf shirt, and either a sweater or a hoodie, because it's one less decision I have to make. It's one more thing I can use to make my decision-making process productive, and where my time isn't occupied on social distractions, non-professional distractions, things that are ultimately unimportant in the grand scheme of what we're trying to achieve. So I think sleep and know your goals kind of work together there so that you're not being distracted by things that are not contributing to the outcome, that are not part of the functional process, if you will. And then, sleeping, eating well, and all those things, taking time for yourself so that your output is more important than your input.
Wow, that is such great advice. That's really remarkable. Less things to really tie you down and burden your mind with so you can focus in on the things that are really important to you in your life. It just makes all the sense in the world. I love it. I mean, I'm thinking that I'm seeing a book coming out, Philip, from you in very short order with all of these sort of words of wisdom. It's really, really remarkable what you've been able to accomplish in your career and what's happening at the Pickle Juice Company. I mean, you're just taking over. I mean, you can't turn on a television and watch a sporting event without somebody, reaching for that bottle of pickle juice. And you really have so many world-class athletes, again, you're not paying them for the endorsement. They're just saying how great the product is. And that's really what it's all about. That's the key to success for all the entrepreneurs watching the show. You serve your clients, you serve your customers, you provide a great product. And when they start talking about your product and using your product on national TV, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a slam dunk. So, Philip, listen, congratulations. I'm getting even excited thinking about your entrepreneurship right here on the show because I love the exciting news that you're involved with taking this out to an international level with so many people raving about the product. In the background, I see people working, and I saw a couple of forklifts going by, probably delivering to some, major, sporting teams throughout the country. So, Phil, this has been a great, great interview, and I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thanks for having me. You're too kind, and hopefully we'll live up to the hype.